right, friends, welcome back. I am so excited to have the opportunity to be here with you in this virtual atmosphere. Yesterday, I was having some technology issues, and I found out that they worked at our local telephone, internet company, TV company, MTA. What they've been working on, doing some prep work. They're actually in the process of installing, I guess it's new cables, fiber stuff. I don't know, something. But anyways, the result is we're going to have increased, they said, lightning speed technology. So I'm excited about that. So plan B then, instead of doing live this week in our group, we're just going to, I'll do the training on the videos like this, and then I'll post them for you. So hopefully that will work for you. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below. All right, so we're focusing on Module 2 today, and this is a curriculum design challenge. Remember, the challenge is that we are actually working on completing our curriculum map. We're focusing on how to design and deliver a comprehensive curriculum from beginning to end so that you enjoy a stress-free and successful year. So let's check in. This coming Sunday, July 17th, today is July 12th, Tuesday, but this coming Sunday is National Ice Cream Day. So I'm wondering, what is your favorite ice cream flavor? There are so many different flavors out there. You know, my favorite is, hands down, from Friendly's restaurant, is peanut butter fudge ice cream. And back in the day when I was going to college, I would work as a waitress there at Friendly's, and that was just my all-time favorite ice cream. So also make certain that as you go through our training today, give us a like, give us a heart on things that you are resonating with you, things that you like, things that you think that you'll be using in your curriculum design. Go ahead and eliminate any distractions that you may have around you so that you can give yourself 100% undivided attention. And again, just to review some of those important dates, our sessions, of course, here in Module 1, Module 2, today we're going to be creating a year-long journey. So we're actually building upon the learning that we did yesterday, and today we're going to put it into motion. So we're going to actually start getting it on paper. All the trainings will be available until July 22nd. So that's not this Friday, but next Friday. So please feel free to go back and watch them as often as you'd like. And then afterwards, these resources will be available in my course library at the Digital Teacher Block Teacher Academy. And again, here's the different topics that we're focusing on. Today, we're looking at Module 2, creating a year-long journey. So after today's session, you should have clarity on how you are going to start creating that year-long curriculum map for your teaching context, or if you're doing training for a business, that business context. Again, this is an implementation challenge, so we're going to have homework, and you'll be working on some of that here tonight. So in your workbook, you should have, and if you don't have it, then make certain that you go to the Digital Teacher Blog, click on that blue button at the top, and that will get you the workbook, so that way you can begin using this resource that I've created. We're going to be working on pages 6 and 7. On page 6 on the left, you'll see that this is where you can take your notes. It is a fillable document, so you can actually type online, or you can print it off. And page 7 is where you're going to start mapping out, putting those thoughts down on the paper, and you're going to be teaching the different parts of your curriculum. All right, so if we were live, give me a thumbs up. How are we doing? And again, if you have any questions, please put those in the comment box below this video. All right, today when we take a look at Module 2, we are going to break it down into 4 components. The first one, we're going to first identify the intended curriculum. That should make sense. If you watched the last module, you'll understand that. We're going to break down those standards, and we know how important those are. We're going to then review some other requirements that we need to focus on when we are building our curriculum map, and then we're actually going to look at designing that year-long map. All right, first, let's put our attention on identifying the intended curriculum. So what must I teach? Remember, that intended curriculum is telling us what it is that we need to be teaching. So this is just a little review from yesterday. All right, so what is a curriculum map? It's a well-organized and purposeful design to facilitate learning. It is free of academic gaps and needless repetitions. Remember, there are 3 types: the intended curriculum, the actual curriculum, and the hidden curriculum. So what must I teach from that intended curriculum? Well, there's grade level standards, right? So those grade level standards are what are used to tell us what it is that we need to teach, what students need to know by the end of the year or by the end of the course. The district curriculum is what a district will provide, or if it's a private school, what the school will provide. If it's a business, what that business will provide. So there's going to be some type of curriculum that will need to be taught, and that is based upon, if you're in school, the grade level standards. If you're in a business, it's the business expectations. Then there could also be a school curriculum. So if your school is a magnet school or a focus school, if it has a specific curriculum, if it's focusing on STEM or STEAM, or if it's focusing on technology, or if it's just a back to basics, or just a focus on literacy school, there could be some additional curriculum that needs to be considered or taken into account when you're writing your long curriculum map. And then, of course, there's options. Remember, we talked about those student interests. We talked about that hidden curriculum, which is something that the teacher might feel is something that's important to teach. It was very important for me to make certain that students understood the different symbols that we have in America. And so during November, I included an America symbols unit, and that built up on the social studies curriculum that the district provided, as well as the standards, the national standards even, that were important for those grade levels. So again, the student interest, seasonal, we always take that in consideration. In holidays, we did talk about these yesterday. In religious, okay? So let me back up really quick. So these are some things that we did discuss yesterday, and it's just another review of what that intended curriculum is and what we must teach. All right, again, just a reminder, put those questions in the comment box. All right, so now let's move on to those standards. Remember how important those standards are. So what is the purpose? Remember, yesterday we talked about how those standards are an important piece to that curriculum, that intended curriculum. You'll see here in blue, what students are actually taught matches the academic expectations. And those academic expectations are those standards. Those business expectations are those standards that the business wants to be taught to the students. So there are different types of standards. There are national standards. There's different organizations. There's a National Council of Teaching Mathematics, a National Council of Teaching Science, Teaching Social Studies, Literacy. There's national standards that are written, and from those national standards, then it goes down to the next layer at the state. Oftentimes the state, I know in Alaska we do, the state has their guidelines. And you probably remember the term Common Core, right? So the Common Core was, those are a set of standards that all 50 states, the United States and its territories, are to make certain that the students understand. So that's like the base, that's the minimum. And then from that, different states, they embellished, or they went above and beyond what those Common Core standards are. And then different publications, they wrote programs to provide instruction on those common standards. Okay, so that's taking it to that next step. Hopefully it all makes sense based upon what we've been talking about yesterday and so far today. All right, so we have those national standards. Again, I did mention those state standards. Again, we've talked about how district and school can also have some additional academic standards that they would like to have taught. You know, everybody's trying to do their very, very best, and they want to, have something that makes their school special or their district special. In Alaska, 7% of our standards are higher than the standards for the Common Core. Also in Alaska, because we have a large Alaska Native population, then we have specific standards that we implement that focus on ensuring that all of the cultural needs of our students are met. I mentioned those Common Core, that's the baseline standards. And then we have our grade level expectations. And those are all the different standards that we look at, and how I'm hoping that you can see how each one of those standards kind of builds upon the other. It's almost like a circle effect, okay? Then we have subject focus standards. So you have your types of standards, and then you drill down into that. You have your subject. Again, we look at that horizontal alignment, that vertical alignment. Then you also have grade levels. So within the subject of math, that is then broken down into different grade levels, and it's very focused. And then with the math and science and the language literacy, you need to have that vertical alignment. So what happens in kindergarten, then that's the foundation for the next grade level, and it continues to build. All right, so let me just pause here for a moment, take a look at all of this. I'm hoping it's starting to all settle in. When we talk about standards, it's just the bare minimum of what we need to do. The grade level expectations, that's what we expect to teach. So that you have your intended curriculum. The grade level expectations should be the actual curriculum. And of course, each subject needs to have horizontal and vertical alignment, and each grade level then will have that vertical alignment. All right. So whether you're in an education sector or the business sector, that you want to make certain that your curriculum is developed based upon those standards. All right, I'm going to move on. If you have any questions, of course, put this in the comment box, okay? All right, the next one is reviewing other requirements. So there are definitely other things that we need to consider when we design a curriculum map. Yesterday, we did talk about all of these. The purpose, remember, there's different purposes for a curriculum map. We talked about the district programs, again, those standards, assessments that are given. We've talked about the calendar. We're going to dig a little bit more into all of these. Those field trips, special celebrations, special units, and student interests. So those calendars, all right, those calendars are very important. Not only will you have your assessments for the state and the district for any national and fourth grade and eighth grade, there's the NAEP assessments, but you also want to think about your units that you're going to be providing and when those assessments will be. So you want to start thinking as you do this curriculum map, how long my units are going to be. And whenever we get to that point in the next little section here, we're going to start looking at, a typical unit is going to be about 6 weeks long, 4 to 8 weeks, kind of go with 6. And then you have some wiggle room in there to extend it or not. But you want to have those unit assessments starting to plan out in your calendar so that you know the time frame that you're working with. Again, those school closures, we did talk about that 80-20 with the intended curriculum. All right, here we have that time frame. Or your school year is broken down into semesters, again, down into quarters. And then your school culture, that is something else that you need to consider because different schools are going to have different celebrations. There might be a huge science focus. Maybe there's going to be a large science fair. Maybe there's a lot of PTA events that happen. Maybe there's a multicultural or a talent show, different things that are important part of your school culture. And honestly, that school culture is going to weave throughout the year with different activities. All right. The PTA and the administration will have and the teachers will have a large impact on that school culture that's developed. All right. All right. So those school functions and celebrations. So I just mentioned that for you. All right. So those are some additional requirements, kind of digging a little bit deeper from the conversation we had yesterday that you will make certain that you add to your calendar. And go to the next page. Oh, those field trips. Yes. All right. How are we doing? I hope that we're doing well. Not too much information overload today, but basically taking everything that we've been learning about yesterday, fine tuning it today, and getting ready for our next section, which is designing that year-long curriculum map. Are you ready? Are you ready? This is it. So our tools that we did talk about this yesterday. So you need and hopefully that you're able to start gathering these materials. So those program guides, your standards, any assessment information that you can get your hands on, any calendars that you have. If you have student interest surveys, if not right now, not to worry. When school starts, you can get those. Some blank calendars, writing utensils, Post-it notes, I highly recommend. All right. So in your workbook on page 7, what you have is a year at a glance. And what I'd like for you to do is when you're looking at your standards and you're looking at different things that you need to teach, I want you to be first looking at science and social studies. Okay. In the elementary, the best way to provide instruction is to do an interdisciplinary curriculum. And that was one of the 4 choices. Whenever I'm doing this training, I'm going to highly encourage you to do an interdisciplinary. And the reason is because it's the perfect way to really engage and motivate students, and it makes the lessons that you teach, the assignments, it provides more meaning for the students, and they understand what it is. They start to see and understand the different connections that, when I'm reading this book about American history, I can see how the reading skills or the writing skills that I'm using, how that's going to apply in this context. So it puts, it gives education that real world focus, that focus that we want the students to have. Okay. So again, when interdisciplinary is more challenging to write, but it is the most beneficial. And that's what I want to make certain that you understand. All right. So in your calendar, first thing you want to do is go ahead and write down those non-negotiable dates. All right. What are those non-negotiable dates? When the school day starts, when the school year starts, when the school year ends, any vacations, holiday breaks that are in there. Okay. So closures, assessments, make certain that if you know ahead of time, if you have an assessment calendar, write down when are you doing your back to school assessments. We have our AIMS assessment, we have a MAP assessment, we have our program assessment, and then we do that again mid-year for students who are struggling, and then we do it again at the end of the year to monitor progress. So that intended curriculum. So here you're going to write down, what are the different subject topics that I must teach, and about a time frame. I would give yourself about six weeks on average. Again, units can go from 4 weeks to 8 weeks, but I try and do 6 weeks. Look to see how that aligns with your quarters and with your semesters. Okay. We're going to focus in on one specific unit of instruction during module 3. So that we'll focus on tomorrow. But for right now, just go ahead and write down when you plan on doing those social studies and those science units. And again, that time frame, 4 to 8 weeks, I try to go right about 6 weeks. Write in here also if there's any seasonal units that you like to do. I mentioned the American history unit that I like to do with the symbols, and I would always do that in November. Before, when I taught 2nd grade, we did the holidays around the world in December. Dr. Seuss Day, and we also have the Iditarod here in Alaska. All right, we have a salmon unit that is spread out through the entire year. Okay, so when you are planning your units to put down on this calendar, then we're going to be looking at that instructional sequence, making certain that what I'm teaching at the beginning of the school year is a foundational skill to what needs to be taught later, whether you're focusing in on that content or whether you're focusing in on those skills. So both of those need to be aligned with that instructional sequence. For example, with content, we looked at a curriculum map yesterday of a 2nd grade where at the beginning of the school year, they focused on their classroom community. Then they started to expand that to their school community. Then it went to their neighborhood community. And in 3rd grade is when it's going to expand a little bit even more into other things that are related to community. And then, of course, in 4th grade, it'll expand to your state community. Whenever I teach Alaska history, I start out the year, learning about the state, learning about some of the geography. And then we start learning about different regions of the state. And then from there, we talk about the climate. And then from there, we talk about the people that inhabit it. And we continue to progress throughout the year. So you'll make certain that when you write your content down, after you put it on your paper, look at it over again and make certain that it is instructionally sequential throughout the year. Give yourself that cushion time. Remember, I said to plan your units to be between 4 and 8 weeks, but you're typically about 6 weeks, but you do have that cushion time. Remember, we have those unexpected closures. Remember that 80-20 that we talked about yesterday. And then also, you should always give yourself some instructional flexibility. But I put caution there because I do want you to be very cautious. You do not want to spend, a whole week building a structure that you only planned for 2 days. So if your students are doing some mapping skills and they're building a climate or a topical map, and you planned on the students having two school days to do that, but then it's like, oh my gosh, they need more time, and then soon I have a week. Well, there's three instructional days that have been lost. So make certain that you plan very carefully how much time it's going to take to complete those um, activities or those lessons that are driven by the assessment and the standards. Okay. All right. So there's a lot that goes on here. Use pencil, use Post-it notes, and you want to, after you get this part done here, then you're ready for that next step. Okay. So that next step is actually taking one of those units, and that's what we'll focus on tomorrow, and starting to plan that unit out and dive down into that. All right. Any questions? Go ahead and put those in the chat box. And again, let's just review our success criteria. How did we do? We focused on identifying the intended curriculum. We bridged what we learned yesterday with some new material today to go a little bit deeper. We also focused on breaking down the standards. We bridged from what we learned yesterday and a little bit more today, and to give some more clarification on the standards. We reviewed other requirements. Again, we pulled in what we learned yesterday, added some more information, and then now we are at the point where we can design a year-long curriculum map. Yesterday, we focused on some materials and tools, resources that we need. Today, we added some more, and now we have that calendar that we can start actually writing on. All right. So the big idea, oftentimes when teachers plan a curriculum year, there is one big idea that encompasses everything throughout the year. You may have that big idea. It could be community. The big idea could be patterns that we see, not only in math class, but we see patterns in science, and we see patterns in social studies and how people move. We see patterns in literacy. So you may have a big idea that you use for your entire school year. But the one thing that we need to remember is that our job is to teach, and it is to inspire our students. And in doing so, we motivate them. Our quote today is, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Okay. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to just have students sit in front of us and we pour knowledge into their brain and hope that they catch something. We want to inspire and motivate the students, because we want to be that one that ignites that fire for learning. Your homework tonight is to gather all those resources we've been talking about, kind of a day 2 here. You get 2 days to kind of gather that material, get those Post-it notes and pencils. But what I'm going to start doing tonight is to start filling out that calendar, that year-long calendar. And remember, you're just going to put an estimate of time frames on there, 4 to 8 weeks. Take a look at your breaks and make certain that you do your best to finish a unit, so it's done before a long break, such as a holiday break or the spring break. And remember, this is a fluid document. This can be as detailed as you want, or it can just be as little bit as you want. But your goal is to make it a document that you will be able to use to guide your curriculum, to guide your planning, to guide your assessments, to guide everything that's happening in your classroom all year long. So this is a document that will change by the end of the year, and it'll change again next summer. But it always gets better, I can guarantee you. All right, Module 3. Tomorrow what we're going to do is focus on taking one of those units that you would like to teach, and then we're going to focus on doing some interdisciplinary planning, okay? We're going to align our standards and content together. Then we're going to look at planning some instructional sequences, and then we're going to look at some more tools and resources that you need to be successful with this, okay? All right, again, I want to thank you for your attention today and some value in this module. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you would share it with any friends who would also benefit. Maybe you have a colleague who is a new teacher. Maybe you have a business partner who is, looking to really amp up the training for their department. Please share and invite them to learn more about this resource at the links that I have listed below. And again, I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow, not necessarily at noon because of my technology gremlins that are out there, but I will have the training available for you and post it so that you can start working on that next part of the curriculum development, which is that unit. Okay. So getting that unit down. So today, get your homework done. Think about that unit that you'd like to hammer in on, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye.